Dear Your Honor, I've been a model inmate for 5 years and have my first parole hearing in 2 months. I never asked the state for anything, but I'm writing this letter pleading for your intervention. While I accept my responsibility for my actions that day, mitigating circumstances led to it, and I implore you to listen. I was laid off from work due to the economic shutdown. As my unemployment benefits ran out, I started delivering food for various restaurants as an Uber Eats driver. Normally, this can be a pretty lucrative side job, but my hometown was small and rural. I often had to make deliveries 20 or more miles out of town. In truth, most of my profits went towards keeping the gas in my tank filled, but I was still making just enough to cover most of my rent. As such, I kept at it, hoping it was a temporary setback until I found a new job. I delivered to some sketchy places in my time with Uber Eats, but none were as off-putting as the trailer park I pulled into that day. Children ran between trailers, unattended in their underwear, with dirt smeared all over their bodies. People shambled like zombies in front of their homes, visibly intoxicated. One woman in a rocking chair had a hypodermic needle sticking out of her arm. Unsure of where to go, I checked my phone and saw one note: RV. I drove through the trailer park until I came to the end of the park. Sitting in one of the lots was an ancient RV, rusted with age and visibly covered in dirt and other stains. Most of the windows were busted out, and all of them were covered with black garbage bags. I stepped out of my car with the bag of food, wading through the beer cans and liquor bottles that littered the way. The air outside smelled of ammonia, so I held my breath as I tapped against the door. I nearly dropped the bag of food when the man answered. The smell from the RV reminded me of my grandmother's old cat, a thick smell of days-old piss that nearly knocked me over. Through watering eyes, I saw my customer. He was over 6 feet tall, pale-skinned, bare-chested, and bald. While he wasn't overly muscular, 2 things immediately raised my guard. The first were his tattoos. Over his left breast was a swastika, and on the right, a Confederate flag. While this marked him as a man I did not want to have dealings with, the large handgun tucked into his shorts made me want to run screaming to my car. The man rested his hand on the gun. "The hell you want, limp dick?" I tried to answer, but my mouth had gone dry. I swallowed and tried again. Uber Eats. You ordered Chinese?" The man frowned at me. "Took you long enough, didn't it?" I tried not to let out a breath of relief when he took his hand away from the gun. He stuck it into one of his pockets and pulled out a wad of cash, and I relaxed. I'm from the rural red state, so neither the tattoos nor the gun were uncommon. Maybe I would get out of this with a story to tell and a generous tip. "Bubba! Bubba!" Something thudded from one side of the RV, growing closer until another man came out. He had matching tattoos, but was shorter and squatter than his roommate. He proudly held up a baggie full of what looked like rock salt. "Latest batch is ready. Just need your seal of approval." He slapped the bag into the other man's hands. Then his eyes widened when he saw me. "Oh, sweet! My crab rangoons." Bubba turned and spat. "Seal of approval, my ass. Last batch you cooked left up half a customers blind and the other half dead. You try it out, Rooster." Nothing doing, buddy. I'm the cook. You're the manager. That was the deal." "What kind of cook doesn't try his own?" Bubba trailed off as he stared at me, his lips parting into a cruel smile revealing rotten teeth. "Say, friend, you look like you've been working real hard. Come on in, kick your feet up for a while." Oh, no, no, I stammered. I mean, it's really nice to offer, but I've got other deliveries I need to make. Bubba pinned me to the RV in a flash and placed the gun to my head. I wasn't asking. They dragged me inside, Rooster cackling the whole time. The inside of the RV was even dirtier than outside. They pushed me towards a stained and torn couch, and I tripped over discarded pizza and cereal boxes as I crashed into it. Bubba was on me a minute later, the gun placed to my head. Snort this, or I'll blow your head off. Rooster placed some of the crystals on a fold-out table and grounded them into a powder with the palm of his hand, then handed me a straw from a discarded Coke can. I had never tried any hard substance before. I didn't even drink that much, but with a gun placed to my head, I did what I needed to do to survive. My nose and throat were on fire as heat washed over me. The world erupted into flames while Rooster and Bubba transformed. Their skin melted, revealing skeletal torsos with smoking embers for eyes. They cackled again as I bolted from the table and out the door. I climbed into my car as fireballs exploded around me and hit the gas. But the world was the same barren hellscape everywhere I went. One of the creatures appeared before me, so I screamed and plowed my car into it, and the world went black. When the police pulled me from my airbag, the world was back to normal. But they slipped a pair of handcuffs on me as the EMTs finished zipping up a mangled old lady into a body bag. I told them my story, but the RV was long gone, and the county attorney said I made the whole thing up. The jury agreed and sentenced me to 10 years for driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, and vehicular homicide. I was content to serve my sentence until yesterday, when 2 new inmates were brought in. It was Bubba and Rooster, and they smiled at me as their cell doors closed. They remembered me. That's why I'm begging you, Your Honor. Please transfer me to any prison but this one to serve out the rest of my sentence. For some context, I live in a major city and currently don't do a lot of driving due to ongoing issues with my car, plus the pandemic has made me turn to more delivery apps in general. So the other day around 1 p.m., I decided to order some lunch after doing a lot of cleaning. I placed the Uber Eats order and found something to watch while I waited for the food. Within a few minutes, a driver accepted the order, and I noticed right away that the driver, Anthony, was on a bike, didn't have a profile picture or any deliveries on record. At first, I wasn't alarmed at all. I was almost amused, like, wow, I guess I'm this person's first ever customer. But then, a full 30 minutes passes with no driver movement on the app. And at this point, I think maybe something is glitching out or the driver is stuck. I contact support via the chat option, and they ended up assigning a new driver because they couldn't reach the first one. Odd, but whatever. Now is when it starts getting a little weird. The new driver assigned is in the same exact spot as the original driver was. They also were on a bike, also have no profile picture, and have no prior deliveries as well. And this driver's name was Lori. I let another 20 minutes pass with no driver movement before I messaged them myself and said, "Hi there, is there any issues with the order?" The app shows that the driver saw the message, but no response. All this time, I'm checking to see if Uber Eats is maybe experiencing issues. None that I could find, but at this point, I'm definitely weirded out. I'm mostly just hungry. So I contact support again to request some assistance. They reassign the driver again and apologize for the inconvenience. Same deal. They also tried to contact the driver with no response. Finally, the third driver assigned is the exact same scenario. Same spot, on a bike, no profile picture, no prior deliveries. Only this time, the name is Robert. And before I can react and go about canceling the order, because at this point, I'm tired of dealing with this, he suddenly has my food and immediately messages me the following. "Hello, I have your food. What's your phone number?" And I respond right away with, "I'm not super comfortable giving my phone number out. You can just meet me when you get here." He responded again with, "What's your number? Be there in 10. How old are you?" And at this point, the alarm bells were going off, and I contacted support immediately to have the order canceled and get further assistance. I get connected to Uber's safety team, who informs me that the order has been canceled. I'll be refunded, and started taking down the details of the strange interactions. As I'm giving the woman on the phone the info she needs, I'm starting to calm down, thinking this was just some creep or something, and that's when I heard a man's voice at the front door.
"Hey, Sarah, I have your food."
I can't even describe the chill that went down my spine because of the way he said it. Making things even worse, the Uber safety woman on the phone with me heard him as well and goes,
"Is that him? But we canceled the order."
I poked my head around the door. The main heavy door was open. Metal screen door was closed and locked, but allowed us to see each other. And when he saw me on the phone, he went from smiling to looking furious. He suddenly got right up against the door and kept asking who I was on the phone with. And at this point, I've started asking him to please leave because he's making me uncomfortable. But he was getting more and more angry. And at this point, started pounding on my door and grabbing, shaking the doorknob while shouting to let him in. The woman on the phone was asking if I was okay. The man was still shouting. So basically, I'm in full meltdown mode at this point and hurriedly closed the heavy door to lock it. The man is becoming borderline belligerent as he kicks my door, and the woman tells me to call the police. He ended up walking away from my house about a minute after that and back up to the sidewalk. And for a moment, I thought he finally f***ed off. So I finished my conversation with the Uber safety woman so she could submit the report. Once she submitted it, I called the police and told them what happened. They weren't incredibly helpful at first since he didn't actually break in or put his hands on me, and they told me if he came back to call again, and they would send an officer out. I did end up having to call them again and give a full report, plus the description of the man since he didn't end up leaving right away. He stayed in the neighborhood for almost 20 minutes, according to one of my neighbors. After she heard the yelling, she saw the man I described walk back up from my house to the sidewalk and hop into a truck with another man in the passenger seat. And apparently, they just sat there, staring at the people walking by and being incredibly sketchy. And that's when she walked back towards my house and asked me what happened. Luckily, she was able to give the cop a description of the vehicle and the other man as well. So basically, this was a very bizarre and uncomfortable experience, and I wanted to share it to maybe see if anyone has experienced anything else like this, because honestly, I'm still pretty shaken up and will be avoiding delivery apps for quite a long time.